Mr. Canseco, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time and to visit with me.
Okay, so you're a congressional candidate for the area for right now covering East El Paso. What changes do you see coming with redistricting?
Well, I think redistricting is 2 years away. I think that because of population shift, we're likely to see as many as 4 new congressional districts coming to Texas. It's not yet known where they are going to be placed. Many things need to be determined thus far. We need to see the results of the census, and we also need to see what the state legislature does. But it is very likely that some will go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, others to the Houston area, and others to the Brownsville area, the Valley area.
What do you think are the top issues affecting the district?
Jobs, the economy, security of our borders.
Any infrastructure issues that you're looking at?
At this time, no infrastructure issues that come or rise to the attention of those issues that I just finished talking to you about.
Okay,
mainly jobs and the economy.
Okay, and you mentioned securing the borders. With the controversial move by Arizona with SB 1070, what is your take on that particular approach?
You know, I first of all think that Arizona took this measure simply because the federal government had failed and refused to act. With that said, I think that it's very, very important that we exercise our sovereignty and control of our borders. It's just the natural thing to do. Every other country does it, and we should do it too, because that's how we need to protect ourselves and protect our interests.
Over the last 10 years, they've tripled the number of Border Patrol agents on the border and have increased spending rather sharply on securing the border. What further steps would you advocate for if you were elected congressman for
You know,
securing
I
the
think
borders?
that what needs to happen is we need to have our Border Patrol on the ground, and we need to use common sense rules of engagement on the border. But more than anything else, we need to also make sure that we visit with Mexico and say, look, you need to cooperate with us and help us with this situation. And if we're to continue giving you foreign aid and other things, you need to cooperate with us. We have a sovereign border. We respect your border. You respect our border. And then we deal with the other matters that face us as a country with regards to the other issues that come through the border and otherwise.
Okay, so specifically with securing the borders, what does your plan look like?
Well, my plan looks like with more Border Patrol on the ground.
How much more?
It's hard to count right now. I would like to double it at this time. And making sure that we have plenty of resources, whether they are drones that are patrolling the border, and realize that in protecting the border, it's not just from people that come here to seek refuge and war, but it's also from a lot of danger that right now is facing Mexico. Drug cartels that have risen to levels of insurgency that are threatening our very lives here along the border, American citizens along the border. They come into our schools, they come into our communities, they poison our families and our communities and our schools, and we're feeling it as far north as New York and Chicago and Houston and Dallas and San Antonio, and I'm sure here in El Paso. So those things need to be stopped.
And that's interesting you say that because you had mentioned the economy being one of the other major issues. Doubling the agents, ensuring that there's drones, that comes with a pretty hefty price tag.
It certainly does.
How do you pay for that?
You know, the first thing we need to do is we need to stop the ridiculous spending that we have going on in Washington. Right now, my opponent, Ciro Rodriguez, has voted for increasing the spending limit of our country to a level above the GDP of our nation. That has to stop. This country has always thrived economically with its small businesses, its businesses. They're the ones that create jobs, not government. Government needs to stay out of the way. And what we've seen over the last 18 months is a huge encroachment by government and government spending. If we roll a lot of that back, much of it ridiculous, we will have more than ample funds to take care of those things. Secondly, what we need to realize is that the only way that we're going to increase the coffers of the federal government is by making sure that more and more of the taxpayers keep more and more of their income, which means reducing the rate of taxation that the federal government plagues us with. In doing so, and has been proven, that increases the coffers of the federal government. Because the more money you keep, the more you grow your businesses, the more you have to spend, the more people you hire, and the more opportunities there are. And that is the way that we get more money into the federal government and reduce the deficits that have grown astronomically.
Going back to the first question that I asked you, I'm not sure we really had a chance to get a firm answer on that. Do you support Arizona's approach for 1070 for the state of Texas?
I have nothing more than respect for Arizona doing what is best for Arizona and what Arizona does for itself.
Is that the right move for Texas?
I don't know that it's the right move for Texas or not. I don't think that it is being considered at this time for Texas. I think that what we're looking at right now is something, when you look at Arizona's law, California has a similar law and has had it for some time. And like that, there are many other states that have that kind of a law. So shame on those states and those people that criticize Arizona for doing nothing more than enforcing.
On the national scene, there's some talk about visiting a discussion about repealing the 14th Amendment. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I like the 14th Amendment just the way it is. I would prefer to attack it more on a law enforcement matter. When you grant visas, entry visas to people, be wary of who's coming into the country and for what reason. If people are pregnant and almost to term, question them and maybe even deny their visa and their entry. I think if we start tampering with the 14th Amendment, we're tampering with a lot of very good people. I, for one, my mother and my father, when I was born in this country, my mother and my father were Mexican citizens. They came to this country in the 1950s. They became American citizens in the 1950s. So I think that I fall into the same category as many, many other U.S.
Governor
citizens.
Jindal from Louisiana,
Absolutely,
for example.
absolutely. So I think that when we start tampering with the 14th Amendment, the 14th Amendment is very beautifully written. I think how we approach the problem of birthright citizenship is just the way that I talk.
Afghanistan, what are your thoughts on Afghanistan and what our plan should be there?
You know, many people forget that the war in Afghanistan is also a proxy war in Pakistan, and Pakistan has nuclear weapons. We're talking about an incubator of terrorism. It's not just stabilizing Pakistan and making sure that all of its tribal components come and form a government. It's a matter of making sure that we stave off this radical Islamic movement that not just originates in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, but in other areas of the Middle East. But because of the dangers that it poses to world security and the United States of America, and more so that Pakistan has nuclear weapons, we need to stay there. We need to make sure that the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are held at bay and a peaceful society again reigns in Afghanistan.
The Iraq pullout, your stance on